What is up, everyone? Thank you for joining me for another episode of OtherWise with Jane Harvey. We're doing a reflection today. Today has been a day of reflection records. It's always a treat to look back on conversations that we've had and digest and reflect and kind of get into it with y'all. So today I'm talking about my interview with Ruah Bull. Ruah is an incredible spiritual director and elder and wise woman. I've been lucky enough to work with her for the last, let me math. Hang on a second. Hang on. 18. Oh my God. Almost 20 years. Oh my God. Yeah, I've worked with Ruah for almost 20 years now, which is really, really cool. And from the time that I started working with Ruah, I work with her in the capacity of spiritual direction and some hypnosis, which she often utilizes in her spiritual direction. I have wanted to share her wisdom with the world. So starting this show and being able to bring Ruah to the people is really, really exciting for me. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into it, shall we? So one of the things that really stood out for me that I didn't know I was going to learn about Ruah, I'm not shocked that I did, but she had her first metaphysical experience when she was young, like quite young. And she talks about it on the podcast, and I don't want to give it away in the reflection because she tells it very, very beautifully. But essentially, she had a metaphysical experience, and she tuned into a frequency of love that I have also had experiences with and tuned into. It's a very special, profound moment. I talk about my first experience with it on the podcast as well. Teasing you guys here, not telling you either one, but they're essentially it's a tuning into a frequency, a really beautiful frequency that reminds you or shows you that you are deeply aligned with everything, literally everything is you, and you are everything, and it is in a frequency of love, which sounds cheesy when I say it, but it's true. It's just true. So I was so excited to learn about that and to get to share with her this sort of camaraderie of having metaphysical experiences at a young age. And I know your curiosity is so piqued at this point. So go ahead and go listen to her episode if you haven't already, and just come on back when you're done. I also want to share here this is another metaphysical experience that I had. That's one of the most fun things that's ever happened to me. I mean, just hands down. Let me say this, actually. It's one of the most fun things that's ever happened to me by myself. And it was in 2017 in New York. I was living on a farm, and I was at lunch. I had made myself a salad that I was really into at the time. I was making these salads with just everything, like shredded carrot, shredded beets, sardines, pumpkin seeds, raisins, avocado, cherry tomato, greens. I mean, I don't know why I'm not making that salad. Why have I not made that salad in so many years? What am I doing? Anyway, I'll write the recipe in the notes and get my act together and start making that salad again. So I had assembled this really perfect bite, this lunch bite, and it had everything on it. It was everything was represented, and including the sardine, which was a really yummy, gotta get those omega-3s, get those fatty acids in there. A really gorgeous piece of sardine, and I could see the spine of the sardine. And I had just recently come back from a cross-country road trip where I stopped in Missouri at these caverns called the Merrimack Caverns. And let me tell you, the Merrimack Caverns have taken out probably 100 miles of billboard advertising. And I went through every stage of emotion on my way to the caverns, from being like, the audacity of this freaking cavern to be in my face like this, like, it's enough already. I don't want to see another freaking billboard about the cavern, to being like, I mean, maybe I should just go. Like, where do I got to be? Like, I'm on a cross country road trip. I'll just go. To being like, I can't wait to get there. I'm so close. And they started doing like, you're 5 miles away. You're 2 miles away. You're a mile away. And I'm like, oh my God. Congrats to whoever did that, and started so far back that there's no way that they don't get you. At least they got me. So we're in these caverns that are really deep underground, and we're touching ancient calcium deposits that are really big. And I have my hands on them. And all of a sudden I tap my teeth and I turn to our guide, who was a very lovely man. I think his name was Ken, just a charming, lovely old man. And I was like, is this the same calcium as like my bones and my teeth? And he was like, yeah, it is. So fast forward, I'm sitting in, New York, in the kitchen, and I'm eating this salad, and I take a moment to admire this sardine spine. And all of a sudden, time just totally opens up in front of me, and I see the recycling of matter perpetual. And I can see the spine of the sardine and the calcium of the spine becoming the calcium deposit in the Merrimack Caverns, becoming the calcium in my teeth and in my bones, and becoming the calcium in your teeth and your bones. And I see everything moving all the time. It's constantly cycling and recycling, and it's happening now. It's happening always. It's never not happening. And for 1 second, or I don't know how long it actually was, it just opened up, and I saw it all. I literally saw time through the vehicle of calcium, and then it just closed. And I sat there staring at my fork with my hand shaking, like, what just happened? It was, gotta tell you, it was the coolest. It was the coolest thing. I feel so grateful that I had that experience. I saw this eternal, when Neil deGrasse Tyson is like, you are stars. Like, you look up at the stars. I mean, we really are. We're stars. We're plants. We're dinosaurs. We're oil. We're granite. We're everything. We've all been everything. It's all moving around all the time. I think that's pretty freaking fantastic, personally. So I love Ruah because she reminds me of stories like that. And thank you for coming with me. I mentioned thin spaces in my conversation with Ruah. And for those of you who don't know what they are, the idea about a thin space is that it's basically a place in the world where the veil between worlds, between the spiritual realm and the physical realm, is very thin. I love the idea. I'll put in the show notes who coined the term, because the name is escaping me at the moment. I think New Mexico is a thin space for sure. I think New York is a thin space, honestly. Verdict's out on Boise, but I'm really enjoying it. High desert feels thin spacey to me. Just the way the light interacts with the landscape is really beautiful. Let's see. Yeah, thin spaces. Where else? Ireland has to be. I don't know. I've never been, but I'm dying to go. Anywhere where you feel that tingle, where you sense mystery, you sense spirit, you sense something other, something different. That's a thin space, and I'm all about it. And I think, based on my experiences in Ruah, is that Massachusetts might be a thin space. So something else that Ruah and I touched on that I think is really beautiful was her departure from the traditional Irish Catholicism that she was raised in. And the thing that struck her most, being taught by nuns in school, in early schooling, being told that her neighbors, her Jewish and Protestant neighbors, weren't going to go to heaven, and her not being able to reconcile that. And I love so much about Ruah. I love her spirituality. Ruah has always been a green light for me to be spiritual and to be engaged in mysticism and the divine. And she has felt like a safe space for that kind of research and that kind of curiosity, because I am I love it. I'm so aligned with that sort of research and that sort of fascination, but not in a dogmatic way. I don't like aggression in organized religion. And I'm so glad I found her right at the time when I was leaving my religion, which wasn't aggressive. It was actually really calm and sweet, as we talk about on the podcast, but still just didn't feel quite right for me. And I found her and got to keep exploring. And I love that she saw from such a young age that sense of rightness, that goodness, that love that she found in her, again, I'm teasing you if you don't know, but her metaphysical experience wasn't ever something that was going to deny a good person a place in bliss or in harmony or in contentment. That message I feel is so true. A goodness, a benevolence, a kindness that exists in the world, that exists on a spiritual level, is never going to tell a person, because you don't call me by this name, or because you don't worship in this way, or because you don't say these prayers, you are condemned. I don't think so. I think that's garbage. And I love that she thought that too from such a young age, and was able to exit emotionally and spiritually from that kind of thought procedure, because I also think that that's dangerous and it's divisive, and it's not something that we need in this world. We need a lot more yes and way less no. And gosh darn, we all need to relax a little bit. I mean, let people believe what they believe, for heaven's sake. So I really love that about her. I also deeply resonate with the story that she told about her mom undergoing a Catholic ritual that I wasn't familiar with before our conversation, of purification with 2 candles held under her neck after the birth of her brother, and Ruah's primal rage in witnessing that happen. And I just want to say to every woman out there right now who, especially after the overturning of Roe v. Wade and just the constant governing of the female form, like what the actual, okay? Like what are we doing here? Let's just stop. Let's just not. And I can't get too heated. I'm going to bring it back down, but I can deeply relate to the rage that Ruah felt after her mother does one of the most divine things that a human being can do, maybe the most, which is to produce life and bear forth life. And then some dude is cleansing her in the name of a male god. No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Not for me. No, thank you. There's nothing dirty or bad about the act of childbearing. There's nothing dirty about the female body. And I get it. I get that rage. I feel that rage. And as open-minded as I am, and as I work to be, masochism is not a thing that I'm going to be supporting on this show ever. And the silencing and the vilifying of the female body is not something I'm ever going to be a fan of. I'll try to understand why you think that way, and I'll try to help you change your mind, but I can't go there with you. So I love Ruah's ferocity. She's like a wise powerhouse. She's ferocious, and she just knew in that moment, this is wrong. My mom hasn't done anything that needs cleansing. There's nothing wrong about what my mom did. There's something wrong about this. This dynamic isn't working. I love to that end, and relate to her courage in moving forward. And she, this is like 50s, 60s, 70s. This is a really new time for women. We're sick of it. We're not doing it. We're changing it. We're advancing and enhancing our rights as citizens in this country. And that actually caused a schism between Ruah and her mom. And that caused a lot of pain, that she was able to work through karmically with her mom after her passing, which is really, really beautiful. But I just want to say I have a tremendous amount of respect for people who are willing to do something that causes pain because it's the right thing to do. And I deeply admire that. And I can relate to that. I've had I've had and have personal experiences where I have to choose to do something that doesn't make immediate sense to people that I love, or that actually goes against the wishes of people that I love, or makes them feel judged or unseen or unappreciated. And it's a painful thing to do what you believe is right when people very, very close to you don't understand it or don't believe it. But I think it's the right thing to do. You have to check in with yourself. And I said this on the show in our interview. I think the question is reflecting on yourself. Am I living the way that I believe it's right to live? Am I acting in integrity with myself? And if you are, then you can't control the result, the external circumstance. And that's a hard pill to swallow. It can be really easy to want to, or to expect that when you do the good thing, you get the result that you want. Going into it, you had an idea in your mind maybe of what you were going to get. Life just doesn't really work like that. Sometimes there's a difference in production. You think you're going to get A, but you get B, and accepting that and knowing that you've done what's right for you. That's a very important and powerful tool. And I loved talking through that with Ruah and hearing her moments of truly putting that into practice for herself. Something else that we talked about that I think is really beautiful, again, in my sort of analysis of spirituality, I've researched a lot of different types of spirituality, and I studied Puritan sermons for a while, and I couldn't understand why it was that any group of people would cultivate what the Puritans cultivated, or any sort of fundamentalism. The aggression, the aggressive rule, the denial of the flesh, the denial of pleasure. It seems so counterintuitive to me. And Ruah and I had a conversation about it, and she talked about the stages of spiritual development. And she also, as written by a gentleman named John Fowler, and how they match the stages of cognitive development as covered by a man who is French, whose name I'm forgetting, Jean something. I will put it in the show notes. And how there's this sort of initial stage of development that's very black and white. And in that black and white stage of development, there's a need for control, and there's a seeking of clarity. And again, I've got to think of a new set of examples, but sort of an A plus B equals C situation. The variables are scary. There isn't a desire for mystery or unknown. There's a desire for fundamentalism, for clarity, for rules and structure. And that's a lot like the first stage of cognitive development. And it makes sense as I talk about it with her. It's funny, it makes sense that spirituality would track that, because it is cognition. We are cognating our spiritual dialogue and our spiritual ritual and our spiritual language and practice, and we're cognating all of it and producing it and then evolving it. And I was laughing because here I am on my high horse, per usual, or whatever, talking about how I don't understand how people could seek such linear boundary. And then realizing I've actually had in the past few weeks and months and years, actually, a struggle built upon accepting the fact of mystery in my own life. The fact that I can be the best version of myself that I can possibly imagine. And I'm a work in progress and I'm always improving, but I can be so proud of what I've said or what I've done or what I've written. And I can still strike a chord in someone that I did not expect. I can still lose a relationship or upset someone whom I meant to help, or not get a job, or there are so many things that can occur that I can't control per se by being a good person. And accepting that and moving more into a phase of mystery and of unknowing and of seeing everything as a lesson, seeing everything as valuable, is something that I'm continuing to cultivate and exercise. So It's always an awesome reminder when you think that you've got something figured out and a group of people don't, that you're actually probably wrestling with the same thing, if not something very similar. And that was a cool sort of aha moment for me during our interview, that I've gone through my micro Puritanism. I mean, it's been really, really, really different. I definitely do not deny the flesh, and I don't, work my tail off except for on Sundays. I mean, I work my tail off all the time, but I also relax and enjoy a good glass of wine and a great movie here and there. But I certainly thought that I could sort of work my way into achieving certain things. And I see the results of my actions as not failures. I've achieved so much, and there's so much that I see as a result of the work that I've done. But I also have things have come my way that I didn't expect, in addition to the things that I wanted and to the things that I expected, or they've shown up not how I thought they would. And that allows me to continue to relate to mystery and to spontaneity and to surprise, and to continue to have a healthy, developed relationship with not knowing, which I think is very, very contra to organized Western religion or organized religion from any part of the world. But the fundamentalism and mystery don't go hand in hand. And so relating to mystery deeply, that's an ongoing practice for me that I really enjoyed investigating with Ruah. Something else that Ruah touched on, and I'm super hot on this, and Catherine Zinkina, I'm coming for you. I want to talk to you. Catherine Zinkina is the host of a podcast called Manifestation Babe that I've been listening to. I'm a new listener, loving what I'm hearing. It's really exciting. It's taking me back to when I watched The Secret. It's all about the power of manifestation and Neville Goddard and the subconscious. And I love the idea that we can deeply empower ourselves and truly manifest a reality that feels right to us and good to us. And in our conversation, Ruah and I talked about manifestation, and Ruah was not dismissive of it, but I think, again, she, like me, talked about how there's a level of mystery that continues to exist. And there's a level of, here's what I want, here's what I'm going for, here's what I'm looking to create in the world. And then here's something else that happened that I couldn't have expected, or suddenly I'm here. And I want to know what you all think about those boundaries. Like, I'm dying to know. Please, leave us comments, email us. What do you think about what is the boundary of manifestation? Because when Ruah said, "Oh, well, you can't just make everything happen," I thought, well, you are making that true. Are you not? You know what I mean? Like, what we believe is the framework for what we can have. And then also, though, by that same token, I know that there are things that just come into our stratosphere that we didn't want or ask for, at least not on any conscious level. And if the theory is just that subconsciously we're seeking it, I want to know more about it, because I do think that we can iterate our desires. I do think that we can, I always say, dreams made flesh. I do think that you can create your dream and live it and taste it and see it and experience it. I don't know to what end, and I don't know exactly how to classify. Maybe the things that occur that aren't to script are life's gifts to you, life's additionals. It's like, you ask for something for Christmas, but then you get a surprise gift too. That's the lamest comparison. Please don't hold that against me. Let's move on. I love Ruah's arc of spirituality, and I particularly love her reclamation of the flesh. She studied as a pagan priestess for a while. She studied Native American shamanism, and she studied Zen Buddhism. She's basically been on the spiritual path forever. And she studied hypnosis and psychotherapy. And she just found all of these modalities that were rich with sensuality and earth and profundity and everything and the divine feminine. And I love that she was able to do that, and that she went from seeing this really misguided ceremony done on her mom to powerfully owning the divine feminine and the nature of spirituality in everything, and reconnecting to her body and to the corporeal and seeing the divinity in that. I am such a big fan of that. I deeply believe that sex is profound, eating is profound, bodily functions are profound, nature is profound, everything we do is profound. I deeply believe that. And I love that she was able to find her way to that. And then I love that she had this sort of confrontation with Jesus as a spirit guide for her. And again, I just worked with, we just interviewed Tyler Crabb. And if you haven't heard that episode, definitely go give it a listen. He's very religious, and he really relates to the narrative of Jesus in the New Testament. And I think Jesus is a great character. I think that as someone who's exercising her comfort in talking about Christianity again after a long time of not talking about it because it seemed undesirable to me to talk about, I love that Ruah, again, sort of went through this similar trajectory of, I am rejecting Western religion, I'm rejecting Catholicism, and then had Jesus as a figure show up for her as a teacher. And she saw him with his hand on a white buffalo in a buckskin in a very native style manifestation. And she fought really hard against his iterations. And at one point she said to him, and I don't want to give all of it away, so definitely go listen to the podcast. But at one point she said to him, you know, I don't think that you're the only way. And he said, I'm not, which I love. I think that's so fantastic. And I think I've always allowed myself to really like the Buddha and the Buddha's teachings, because that didn't feel dogmatic. It didn't feel that it could be easily misconstrued as me being a fundamentalist Christian. But you know, I have to go on record saying I really do like Jesus' teachings as well. I think they're beautiful, and loving kindness and living in a state of non-judgment and living in a state of inclusivity and connectedness. I like that. I think mycelium do that. I want us to have a network. I want us to feel close to one another. We are a whole and a singular. We operate in strife. That's what I think anyway. So I like that Jesus found his way back into Ruah's pantheon. I think that's really cool. And I loved that she shared that with me in a time when I've definitely been investigating, let's just say, spiritual leaders and icons. And it's nice, you know, like when I look at my pantheon, you've got like MLK, and you've got Buddha, and I've got Pema Chodron, and I've got I'm forgetting her name. She was an anchoress. Oh, it's not Teresa of Avila. Oh, come now. Judith of Norway, of Norwich, I believe. In any event, JC's up there, you know. Jesus is he's a good teacher. He's a fascinating teacher and a fascinating leader. And it's just interesting to allow that narrative back into my personal Bible. So thank you again, Ruah, for just being a friggin' spiritual pioneer and doing all of this for all of us. The last thing I think I'll say is the spiritual path is a hard one. And Ruah and I talk about this, and I think it's really beautiful that life, when you engage with yourself deeply and fully, and you initiate a spiritual path, a path of self-research, of awakening, of inquiry, it's hard. It's uncomfortable. And if you're on that path, if you're anywhere on that path, great, good job. Keep going. Definitely keep doing what you're doing. It's worth it. And you get stronger. You really do. And in my opinion, there's nothing more valuable. I think that everything can cascade from the spiritual path. Your finances, your career, your relationships, your physical health, your artistry, your creativity. I think everything really cascades down from, or is living under the umbrella of, the spiritual journey, and engaging with that deeply and willingly and with a lot of humor and curiosity is a powerful, powerful tool. It's a powerful experience. And yeah, it can be very, very dark night of the soul and very phoenix from ashes. And I've done that plenty of times. And I'm happy to say I am stronger and clearer and better than I've ever been in my life as a result of saying yes to those experiences and allowing them to inform me and shape me and help me to grow. The last thing that I will say, and this is important, I can't believe I forgot it because it's actually one of the most important things about the episode that Ruah and I did, is at the end of our conversation, I talk about a period in 2016 when I was suicidal. And this is so meaningful to me. I've been suicidal, I would say twice in my life acutely. Oh, well, no, maybe three times in my life, very acutely, but I've had suicidal ideation. And I listened to a Conan O'Brien interview, with Nikki Glaser over the summer, I think it was in August. And she talked about her suicidal experiences and the struggles that she went through. And I felt so proud and so grateful and so excited to hear someone in show business, someone thriving, someone so successful and so real and so willing to talk about hard times and willing to talk about mental health and willing to be honest and integrate her full story. And I'm happy to be integrating my story in full into this show. I definitely experienced suicidal ideation, and I'm really glad that I made it, and I tell a really beautiful story about it in my conversation with Ruah. Again, I will save that for if you pop over there and hear it, and if you already have, then you know. But I want anyone and everyone listening who's ever felt suicidal to know that you're so not alone. This is something that people experience. Life is extremely hard, and sometimes it's hard to know what to do or where to go. And that doesn't make you broken or bad or wrong. Call 988 if you need help. I've called them plenty of times. They've been amazing. Talk to your friends, talk to your family, talk to me, send me an email. Honestly, life's tough, and feeling suicidal is, I don't know if I could say normal, but it seems common and it seems understandable, and it's overcomable as well. And if you can own it and embrace it and integrate it, it can lead you to so much of who you are alive and who you are in this world and who you are as a human being. So I want to say that I see you and you're not alone. And it was a joy and an honor for me to get to share that in my episode with Ruah. And I think that's everything from me. Thank you. I hope this episode helped you or sparked some curiosity, some questions. Share this with a friend and email us if you'd like to get in touch. Definitely definitely subscribe, and definitely head on back soon because we've got more coming. Be well. Thanks so much again for tuning in. Hopefully there was something in that episode that inspired you that you can take with you throughout the week. Please be sure to like this episode, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and share this with a friend or family member. They might find it useful also. If you want to learn more about us, you can do so at OtherWise.com, and be sure to sign up for our newsletter, Music by Dash Positive. And if you want this episode in audio form, you can listen to it wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.